Have you ever stopped to wonder what really makes a brain male or female? Well, today we're going to dive right into that. It's an incredible biological story, and it all starts with just one single switch that kicks off a whole chain of events, shaping our brains way, way before we're even born.
So what is the secret here? What makes this big difference? Is it all just baked into our genes from the start? Or maybe it's a flood of hormones that does the trick? Or is it, some kind of complex dance between the two? That's the big question we're going to break down right now.
Well, the answer starts super early. We're talking deep in development, and it all comes down to a single, really powerful biological signal. You can literally think of it like a master switch. One flip, and this whole complex process just gets set in motion.
Right. So that master switch, it's genetic. And to really get how it works, we've got to go back to the very beginning. We're talking about our chromosomes.
Okay, so here's a quick refresher. Every single human cell has 23 pairs of chromosomes. Now, the first 22 pairs, they're called autosomes, are basically the same for everybody. But the real difference, the one that matters for this story, is in that final 23rd pair. And those are the sex chromosomes.
And this is where it gets really simple but so important. For females, that 23rd pair is made up of two X chromosomes, so we say XX. For males, though, it's one X and one Y chromosome, so XY. That's it. That is the genetic starting line for everything else we're about to talk about.
But here's the crazy part. You'd think this huge difference in development comes from that entire Y chromosome, right? Nope. It actually boils down to just one single super powerful gene that's sitting on it.
And that gene is called the SRY gene. It stands for sex-determining region on the Y chromosome. And its presence, well, that's the whole ballgame. If that gene is there and it's active, the embryo starts down the male pathway. If it's not there, it goes down the female pathway. It really, truly is that master switch we were talking about.
Okay, so the genetic switch has been flipped. Now, a whole new team comes onto the field: hormones. Just think of them as the sculptors, or maybe the construction crew, that are going to shape the body and, this is the important part, the brain, all based on that first genetic instruction.
What's pretty amazing, actually, is that for the first few weeks, every single embryo starts out with the exact same internal structure. It's kind of like a blank slate that could become either testes or ovaries. It's basically just sitting there, waiting for its marching orders.
And this is how that chain reaction happens, step by step. First, that SRY gene on the Y chromosome switches on. That tells that blank slate structure to develop into testes. Then, as soon as they're formed, those new testes start pumping out the hormone testosterone. And that testosterone travels up to the brain and starts organizing everything, wiring it up in a male-typical way.
Now this is super important. This early hormonal wash isn't just a temporary thing. We're talking about permanent, lifelong effects on how the brain is physically wired.
This quote here really nails it. It talks about an irreversible differentiation. And what that means is, this isn't a suggestion. It's a fundamental fork in the road. The brain is literally being built, permanently, down one of two paths.
So, what does that actually look like in the brain? Well, there's this really specific critical window in development where hormones, specifically testosterone, decide which brain cells, which neurons get to live and which ones die off in certain areas. The end result: male brains might get more neurons in some spots, while female brains get more in others, and this creates permanent sex-specific circuits. Okay, so the blueprint is set. The permanent wiring is all there. But how did these circuits actually get turned on, and when?
Well, here's the wild part. After all that initial building and organizing, the whole system just goes quiet. The fundamental wiring is totally in place, but it just lies dormant for years. It's waiting for a second signal, one that won't arrive until much, much later, at puberty.
And this really gets at the two different jobs that hormones have. You've got the organizing effects and the activating effects. Think of it like building a house. The organizing effects, that's the construction crew. They show up early, they pour the foundation, they put up the walls, they run all the electrical wiring, they build the whole house. That's permanent. Then years later, you get the activating effects at puberty. That's like you walking into the finished house and just flipping on the light switches. You're not changing the wiring, you're just using the circuits that were built a long, long time ago.
So let's just pull it all together. It starts with one single gene, SRY.
That gene kicks off a wave of hormones that permanently wires the brain during a really critical window, way early in life. This creates a fundamental male or female blueprint. And then, that blueprint just waits. It lies dormant until it's finally activated years later by the hormones of puberty and adulthood.
And that leaves us with a pretty big and fascinating question, doesn't it? If our brains are built from this incredibly deep biological blueprint, how does that fundamental wiring interact with a whole lifetime of experiences, of learning, of culture? It's really that classic intersection of nature and nurture. And it's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.